Winnsboro Economic Development Corporation monthly board meeting for May 23rd, 2023 to order at 5:33 p.m. Just want to welcome all of you. It's always good to see interested people here with us to learn about our business and to help comment and guide and direct us in the direction of the WEDC board. So thank you for being here. I'll go ahead and we'll start with a roll call. To my right, Andrea Newsom here, Marcia Duffy here, Jan Mills here, Steve Andrews
Present.
and Jim Hollowell.
Present.
Okay, we are 5 of 5 seated board members here, so I will declare a quorum for the meeting. And if you would all please rise for our invocation by Jim Hollowell and then our pledges.
Father, we thank you for another day you've given us, and we thank you for all your blessings to us. Thank you for this opportunity to come together to deliberate on the business of Winnsboro, and we just ask that you give us the knowledge and wisdom we need to make the best decision for the whole of Winnsboro. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, at this time, we will have our staff reports. Items 4.1, Farmers Market Report, and 4.2, the Main Street Program.
I can't speak to Farmers Market, but I can speak to Main Street.
Good.
All right, so I won't read the report that's there, as normal, but I will have to say, since the last time I've seen all of you, we did receive our accreditation. We're right before Main Street.
Congratulations.
So we're excited about that.
You can breathe.
Yes, all the paperwork got put in and all that good stuff, and our certificates have not come yet. There's been a faux pas that all of the main streets in Texas did not receive their national certificates. So, yeah, we should be seeing this. Hopefully by next time.
Good.
Y'all have any questions? Awesome. Thank y'all.
Yep. Could you just tell us maybe about just the Imagine the Possibilities tour? I know you've given us a little bit of information on that,
It was gonna
but,
happen, and
and then it did happen, and just maybe
It's
the
fine.
successes.
Yes, so 2 state representatives came. That was really pretty fun. And
Who were they?
Maximilian and Bryce.
Okay.
And don't remember the last name
Okay.
at the moment, but yes, they both came, and it was real exciting. So we got to see Carl's building over here, 326. That was really fun. You want to say a couple of things about your building?
I've noticed the sign on the window that
Gosh.
says Imagine the Possibilities Tour Stop, so.
Yeah, it was really pretty fun. And I have to say, what was neat about the whole time is that we have been talking about different things about our buildings. One, that our brick is not fired brick. Most of it's not. It's really soft. And then a lot of the mortar that they've used is sand. So, thus 100+ years later, it's a little bit soft, okay? And it needs a delicate hand. But I think whenever they came this particular time, it was really fun to kind of go, okay, now look, this is what it looks like, and, you know, kind of rub it and show them and see the structures, and that was neat. They did. They stayed for quite some time, and we got to look at the old jail. That's over in 101. So that was kind of fun, too, as we all stood there going, can you imagine being in here? So there were 12 people that signed in.
Maybe we need a
there was-
celebrity jail thing for a fundraiser. We have the, we have the jail. We had one of those years ago.
Yeah, I think there'd probably be people that would pay lots of money to get out of that standing. So So really, you might be
The
onto
people
something.
that pay for the trumped-up fun charge.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, because it really was
So-and-so for having too much fun at work, you pay to have them
That's it.
arrested, and then they have to get their bail
There
money
you
to
go.
get out.
There you go. Sounds like a
We have the
fundraiser in the
jail.
making. Yeah.
Sorry.
No,
chasing
it's pretty
squirrels.
special. Yeah, it was pretty special. And it was neat to kind of go through the buildings and look at the different stuff. And it was really very satisfying to go, and these buildings are full. I mean, these are full. And look in here, and look in here, and look in here. Guys, that just makes me proud. I hope it makes you proud too.
It does.
So it was. There were about 12 people that signed in. A couple that didn't realize they were coming into the exhibit, but they did and got to sign it too. And got to hear the spiel, even though they were there for other reasons. But they actually stayed and listened to the spiel too and ate a cookie. So there was one that came from Mount Pleasant, and that was good. And we've had a few calls after that of people that have just been inquiring and seeing if they could come. So yeah, that was really good.
Any other questions for Brenda?
I forgot their names too till I pulled out their
Oh,
cards.
cool.
Maximilian Hall and Bryce Hendrickson.
There you go, Hendrickson, yes. Yes, they are fantastic. Very engaged,
Okay.
very engaged. Know their stuff. All right, is there anything else?
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Jan, would it be okay if I gave an update on farmer's market?
Yes, please do.
Andy Miller, I reached out to her and asked about market bags. We've been out of market bags for a while at the farmer's market, and so I inquired with her about that. She contacted me a couple of weeks ago and said that she found a company that will give us the bags for free. They collect all of the sponsorships for the bags. They put the only requirement is that we have to give the bags out for free. So I think that's a win-win, and she's in the process of working on that to get us new market bags that aren't gonna cost us anything, but will also they go to local businesses, and so the advertisements will be for local businesses here in Winnsboro. So it's kind of a win-win, and you get free, well, not free for the vendor, I guess, but free market bags, and then we also get to advertise for that. The other thing is that the concrete parking stops have been ordered and should be going in within the next 30 days or so.
Good.
So those big brown spindles will be going away.
Good. Thank you. I think it's off to a great start. You see lots of crowds on Saturdays, and that is always good. Hopefully, we've got something that's driving them on into the downtown area and the other stores throughout Winnsboro that are open on Saturdays to spend extra money while they're here, either eating, shopping, enjoying things in town. I know, speaking with one of the garden centers, like the weekend of Bloom, she almost sold out. She was just very excited about the crowd that was there, and so there are true benefits of farmers market and other events that trickles down to our local businesses and helps drive some of their traffic and things. So that's always great. Everybody working together to pool our resources and go from there. Okay, moving into number 5. This is the time for the public to make comments at the meeting, and for those who have signed in before. We have one who has registered to speak, and first I'd like to apologize. I believe she had an application that she had submitted, and it did not get on the agenda and her information uploaded. So Denise Scott, if you would come, we'll need you to state your name and your address, and then let us know why you're here this evening.
My name is Denise Scott, and my address is 767 County Road 4592. I live there by night, and by day I am owner of Backstage Coffee Lounge downtown. But I have put in an interest and an application in to be part of the EDC, and to just kind of integrate more into the community and the growth of all of Winnsboro.
Thank you. Are there any others that need to register and would like to make public comments at this time? If not, we will move on to items 6.1 and 6.2, our financial report and our minutes. Thank y'all so much for having those for us to review. You can see several of the items are showing pending, like the $90,000 for the Texas Commission of the Arts grant, and then a couple of a business grant and a facade grant. Those pending to be paid. And since this report was made, you remember we also have the $10,000 committed from the line item would be the special projects and projects incentives, the Wood County walls. So there'll be an extra $10,000 from our budget for that item as well. One thing too that I had asked Mackenzie to prepare for us, and maybe I'm the only one that is interested in such items, but I tend to look at financial numbers and trends and some things like that, and you will notice the last report at the bottom that is showing year 2023 and 2022 starts with October and goes through September. You're probably wondering what in the world are those numbers. That is actually our sales tax revenues by month that we have received our third of the city's sales tax amounts there. Looks like we got off to a pretty good start in October and November. We were running ahead of prior year, and then since that time we have been lagging and dragging from December through April's funds. When looking at the budget and you see our income, we are 7/12 of the way through, a little over 58% of the budget year. And so you can see year to date from that we have collected 53.9% of our budget. Theoretically, I guess if you actually receive everything on a nice even 1/12 each of the months, we should be running right about that 58% mark. So we are lagging by about 5% behind budget as far as our sales tax. I'll kind of show you there, and then overall, when you look at the notes receivable and other items there, are 52.86% of income. The good news is that we're only at 30.63% of expenses paid to date. So while we may be a little unfavorable to budget on the income items, we are favorable to expenses. So that makes our overall expenditures and items still left to incent. But that also does not reflect some of these large items that we have committed to that have not been paid. Also take a look at, do y'all have any questions on the finances or the minutes? If not, if we could entertain a motion to approve those consent items.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes and the financial report.
Okay, I have a motion by Marcia to approve our consent items.
I'll second.
I have a second by Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not, motion carries. Item 7.1 is to consider an advertising expense request by the Winnsboro Rodeo Association. Someone in the audience that would like to address that request? Robert's Rules of Order, can we move right on then to the next item? Or does the board want to act on that at this time?
How much are they asking for reimbursement? We don't know?
Well, here's my question. They usually get approval prior to the event. I don't think I've ever seen where they come after the event has taken place and ask for a reimbursement. That's kind of out of order, going of the norm, I think.
Typically, the organizations will bring in their request to us with an itemization of their annual budget, their budget for the project they're seeking our grant dollars for, how they're going to spend those dollars so that we can verify that they are eligible expenses. Then we approve the request, they spend the money, and then bring in the receipts showing that they spent it in the manner that we approved, and we reimburse those.
Okay, and then on the second part of this request about the funds from last year, I'm assuming 22, that was approved, Mackenzie, did they ever turn in the receipts?
They did turn in the receipts. I don't remember, I think 3 of the 4 that they turned in were prior to the EDC. 2 of the 4 that they turned in were prior to the EDC's approval of the incentive. One of them was for something that, without clarification, I do not believe is eligible under the EDC's motion to approve for advertising. And the last receipt that they presented was a year prior to the event. And so I've been in email correspondence with a contact from the WRA trying to get some clarification on those, but it doesn't look like they're going to be eligible for reimbursement based on the motion made by the WEDC.
Now, this is some inconsistencies is looking like.
Do we need to take action? Do you want us to take action on that, Mackenzie, or just there's no one here to make their request? So
It can die for lack of motion, or you guys can take action to not approve.
Is there a motion or a second? If not, the item has died. Okay, items 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4 are to consider board applications for the current 2 vacancies that are on the board. Could we entertain a motion from the board to, instead of looking at all 3 of those individually and acting on them individually, to consider those 3 items as board consideration, one item? Unless y'all would like to
How would,
look at them each individually and go down the line.
how would that work if we did that on the
We
voting?
can then discuss all 3, we can have them come up and discuss, and then we can have open discussion, and then a motion on who to recommend to the council for filling the open seats.
Okay, the 2,
We only have 2 open seats.
the motion would be for, okay.
So I think what Jim's asking is you would make a motion that 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4 all be considered under the same action. Someone would second it, you would approve it, then you'd go into discussion for all of those as one action item.
Unless you want to do them individually.
Well, I move that we make it all
Okay.
one.
Combine into one, okay.
Mhm.
Second.
Is there a second? We've got a motion and a second to combine items 7.2, 3, and 4 for consideration by the board at this time. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? If not, motion carries. Okay, we currently have 3 applicants for our 2 positions that are open for the WDC at this time. I know a couple came forward last meeting for some questions. I know it was moved till this meeting in order to give the board more time to visit and get to know the applicants. They were encouraged to reach out to board members. And I know some have with me personally. I don't know if others have ever reached out with y'all as well. Would y'all like to hear some more information or thoughts that folks may have had since the last meeting that you'd like them to share with us before making a decision?
Maybe we could just get each one to come up and do a little quick synopsis on what they're bringing to the table, is how we'd say it. I guess just start with the first one, that was,
Why they,
I do have one question. You said we have 3 applicants. Is this be a 4th?
Because
Yes.
it's not on the agenda, we cannot take any action on Denise's application tonight.
Okay.
So if, depending on tonight's decision would be whether there's an open position for her to be considered for at a later meeting. Okay, we have, the 3 applicants, are Carl Sutherland, Jody Jones, and Gary Gravely. If y'all could just-
Is Gary here?
Yes, please.
I'll start. I'm Carl Sutherland, live at 401 West Myrtle. Andrea knows the house well. You'd like to know why I'm interested? I put a lot of the information. I think I have a good business background that can be used to outwardly focus or to help outwardly focus the board. I think that the WEDC should be focusing on attracting new business to Winnsboro from outside and the types of business that we want to bring. Because I think I know what good business wants and what they're attracted to. I think I can help do that. So I'm happy to entertain any questions.
And you're on the Main Street as well, correct?
And the airport board also. That's correct. And I visited with Jim, Stephen, and Jan. Didn't get a chance to visit with Marcia, but I know the mayor too.
yeah.
But I'm happy to answer any other questions, any thoughts.
We may think of something, so we reserve the right to public.
So I'm still under cross-examination.
Okay, Ms. Jody.
Hi, I'm Jody Jones. I'm 107 West Myrtle, neighbor to Carl and Carol. And I did also have the opportunity to meet with some of you. I apologize, I did email everybody, but I wasn't able to coordinate responses back with everybody because I only have the city email, though I did track you down. Anyway, I'd like to become a member of the WEDC because I think it's important to just bring some energy, expertise, business professionalism. I think most of you know that we also run Carnegie Cottage, which is an Airbnb, and we've learned a lot in the last year about how important promoting Winnsboro and sharing Winnsboro with our people in the town as well as the community outside of the town. We do a lot of focus on event-type weekends, and we recognize and get regular feedback from our guests about what's really great about their experience and what's not. And fortunately, it's usually pretty great. I also have a keen interest in watching us develop our community. Again, we've got a really great focus on Main Street, and then we've got some businesses around the surrounding areas that really could use some kind of support or plan in action, as well as the new businesses that are coming in, because we've got those areas too. So the more we can kind of do a slow crawl and keep this place going in a good direction would be fabulous. And I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Are you on any other boards?
I am not.
I'm Gary Gravely. I live at 4541 East FM 852, and I apologize for not being here last meeting. I made a mistake on the date and was not aware that it was happening at that particular time. I bring to the table 48 years of working with municipal governance from all directions, both land, planning, use, building, development, all the way across the board. We've helped cities develop residential areas in the process over the years. We've done everything from small development, 1 to 2 acre properties, all the way up to 750 acres and waterfront property in San Francisco Bay, which became a $1.2 billion asset for them. So we've had multiple expertise in that area that we've had over the years that have been, I've had support teams obviously all along the way in that arena. A year and a half ago, I began the process of developing a manufacturing firm which will become one of the premier high-tech robotics operations in the woodworking industry, and I know what it is about having economic development corporations core to me, because they're currently looking for some of the things that we have to offer in that arena. So I've been around that side of it as well, from both bringing in new businesses as well as being a new business to be brought in. And I'd entertain any questions that anybody might have.
You have 48 years, you said?
I started when I was 18 years old, yes, sir.
Fair enough. So with all your connections, what does it look like in the future for you to help bring big business to Winnsboro?
Looks good. I had I'd been on previous boards throughout several other cities in the course of things. I've got connections with a number of different businesses and investors who are looking to come in whatever direction that looks amenable to them from a business standpoint. We've worked with a gentleman who's a major stockholder in IBM, who moved IBM in a number of directions in the past, and I've had different investors of that caliber and that nature that are constantly looking for new businesses. I'm currently involved myself in a alternative energy source that has been setting the rockets on fire in other countries because we can't get the U.S. to see the value of that particular alternative energy yet. We're about to get Elon Musk in front of him on part of that energy firm as well, but that is something that's growing rapidly as well in the course of things. And business growth has been primarily what I've been about from day one.
Just an FYI, my questions, don't let them be intimidating. Y'all are all more experienced than I am anyway. So.
Any other questions? Thank you.
I'd love to have an IBM in Winnsboro, but I don't think our infrastructure will. But that would be awesome. A satellite office right here in Winnsboro.
So do we discuss this out loud, or do we hurt people's feelings in front of them, or it's uncomfortable?
Yeah, we can't go into executive session because it's not one of the reasons that. If we went from no applications to 4.
So obviously, someone may get their feelings hurt, and it's gonna happen by the end of the day. I wanna let y'all know that we do appreciate y'all coming and applying, and it shouldn't be in this situation where someone doesn't feel like they're adequate to fit the board. I assure you, you are. But based on experience, I think I know what direction I'm going, and how do we move forward on our vote?
Do y'all want to discuss each applicant, your thoughts, strengths? Or,
This is very difficult with y'all three standing there looking at us. I know. Y'all turn around for just a minute and not put your hands over your nose.
I'm just thrilled we have some very qualified and energetic and enthusiastic applicants that want to join the board and would definitely bring some their level of expertise and experience to us. So I just want to start by saying thank you to all 4 of you for your interest in applying and wanting to get involved with the EDC. There are several other boards that are looking for members as well, so
If I may object, I have no problem standing outside if you guys would like to discuss it.
Yeah, of course.
We're on video, so you're gonna see how we go.
So I guess the
I just
idea
wanna start from,
would just be to, is there one in particular, one person thing stands out, and then just move forward as we go along. I mean, I don't know any other way to try to accomplish this.
I will say, Carl did reach out to me. I appreciate you reaching out. We did have a great conversation. Judy, I do know that you sent me an email. Jody, I am sorry. And I did not respond, and I apologize. He kind of got a little fortunate because he called and his voicemail kept popping up, so I called him back.
Persistence.
So, I appreciate both y'all reaching out. I do believe, based on experience, I know which direction that I'm ready to start if you guys are. And
I
we'll
kind
let
of
them,
have an idea too,
Yeah, I
but
do too.
all right,
Okay,
we'll
so
let you go
someone wants
first,
to make a
Andrea.
motion.
let me go first.
Somebody made the
Made a
motion,
motion,
and if
yeah.
somebody agrees, they'll second it. If not, it will die for lack of a second.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I make a motion to accept Mr. Gravely. And it's strictly because what I think he could bring to the table. He seems to have years of experience in developing new business, bringing new business, and even going by just the conversation he had right here, he seems to have contacts. And I think that's a big part of moving businesses in or trying to develop Winnsboro. So I make a motion for Mr. Gravely.
Is there a second?
I totally agree with Andrea. I feel like Mr. Gravely would be a big asset to our board, and I second that motion.
Are we going to take them individually, or we?
You need to vote on that one, and then you'll make another motion for the other.
Okay.
Oh.
We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. That will be to recommend to the council. We don't have the authority to appoint. Okay. Is there any other business that the board, others to consider at this time?
I would like to consider Ms. Jones. I think she would be a good asset to the table as well, and it'd be a big asset to the board.
Okay, and I can say I'm leaning more toward Carl. Mr. Sutherland, I'm sorry.
I kind of agree with that. Based on Carl's conversation, mine, please forgive me, ma'am, very uncomfortable. But based on experience and the long conversation him and I have, that's the only leg up that really he has based on our conversation. And I do believe Carl would be a better fit for the board.
So Jan, there's a motion. You need to call for a second. If there's not one, it'll die due to a lack of second, and then you can entertain another motion.
Okay, so did you make a motion, or were you just expressing, Marsha, were you just expressing?
Did you capture it as a motion?
Support or your thoughts?
I'm making a motion for Ms. Jones, that's my thought.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, to recommend to council Jody Jones to, fill a seat on the board. Is there a second? Okay, motion will die due to lack of a second. Are there any other motions to come before the board?
I'll make a motion to accept the application of Mr. Carl Sutherland to be presented to council.
We have a motion to present Mr. Sutherland's application to the council for
I
a
second
seat
it.
on the board. We have a motion and we have a second. Is there discussion regarding this motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Motion carries. So, thank you. We do appreciate you all applying. And, Mackenzie, if you would, make sure that our request goes to the board for their next agenda, that you request, the seats be filled, by, Mr. Bradley and, Mr. Sutter.
Yes, ma'am. went over it briefly at the last council, well, a little bit briefly at the last council meeting. I wanted to bring the estimates or proposals that we have to you guys. You've got them in front of you. They're over $50,000. So if this is something that you guys are seriously want to entertain as a possible project, then there are procurement processes that we need to initiate before we take any formal action. And then there's also public hearings that would have to be held. Ms. Mills had a question about, and maybe Andrea, you could answer them about whether or not the details surrounding the original purchase of the Promised Land Bakery and the parking lot. Is that correct, Jan? And do you want to go into more detail about that?
Do you remember whenever that block of land was purchased? Was that purchased with city funds or WEDC funds? Because I know the WEDC voted to support the purchase of that. And so I'm assuming that that building has been bought
Which
by
one?
Promised Land Bakery?
Yes, it was.
And it's not leased.
No,
So
it was bought.
were those funds returned to WEDC for us to use for future projects when that purchase was made? Or where did our money go?
Yeah.
So the EDC bought the property
Mhm.
and then gifted that property to the city.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I know the
if that money-
discussion was that we would sell that building and those funds would be available to build a parking lot on the land that was there. And so I guess were those funds earmarked for that project where we're starting with some funds available for the parking lot, or are we starting from ground zero?
I guess it'd be ground zero.
Okay.
I don't remember after when the sale of the building, I don't remember us saying it goes back into the EDC. I do not remember that.
Well, it was not really back into the EDC.
Well, I know, but
to
for
cover-
purposes, yes.
To develop
Right.
the rest of that lot
Right.
was the intention when the WDC bought it and gifted it. Because we can't own property, the city has to own the property or something. I mean, this is all a couple of years ago that all this happened, and I have slept a time or two since then and sat through a meeting or two. So that's why I was kind of asking for some clarification from some of this, was the intent that it was given to the city and how those proceeds from the sale were to be used. Anyway, that's just,
So can we discuss our two different options here, or?
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I will point that right now, that we set aside $114,000 in our budget for special projects and property incentives. And to me, the parking lot is a project. But we have now spent $100,000 of that 114 in other projects. The utilities grant match to go on Market Street, and then $10,000, $5,000 for murals and $5,000 for the what is it? Something of walls, Wood
Yeah.
County Walls
Yeah.
project, for us to do the brush off, the paint off, whatever that
Yeah.
is. So that leaves us $14,839 available for special projects based on this budget. We do have dollars outside the budget in the bank account that are available to be spent with recommendation of the board to council to dip into our reserves, which are basically set aside for business incentives, to get some of the large businesses in town. You're competing against other towns, other EDCs, and it's a money game. When you find somebody that wants to come to Winnsboro, their first question is, what are y'all gonna give me to come? You know, is it a piece of land I can have? Will you pay to get the utilities to my building? And that's a decision then the WDC makes, and what those reserves are for is to draw some of those in. And those are back to the 380 agreements of, yes, we'll do this, but for that, you agree to employ X number of people. You agree to put this on that property, or improve the tax base of the property.
to invest in projects and things, but
What's the reserve? How much is in there?
do you know what the balance is?
It's over 700,000 currently.
Okay. And 14,000 left from that particular.
From this budget. Historically, in all the years that I have served on the board, we never actually had a budget where we brought in, we knew a guesstimate, educated guess of here's what we think our sales tax dollars are going to be, and we're going to take those and use them in this year's budget. We actually did this year inflows and outflows balanced versus inflows and outflows not. And that was how we came up with the strange amount of the 114,839. That was after all of our overhead and other known expenses were. We had that available to set aside for either bringing in, courting other businesses, city projects that became available, and, you know, to be able to use for those. And it's kind of this, I guess, if the money's there and folks know it's available, projects will become available for us to use and invest those on. So very quickly, we have had some great projects that I'm very proud that we're able to support with the matching grant that the Market Street, I think that was a good use of some of our funds in order to get the utilities underground and some of those other kind of things, so some much larger vision and projects can proceed on Market Street. And then I also think the Wood County Walls actually is all about tourism and bringing outside visitors and tax dollars into our city to spend their money and help the bottom line of our local businesses throughout town and generate sales tax dollars, which is how we're funded. Just a quick, and y'all all may know this, we are funded solely through a split of the city's sales tax dollars. The city gets 1.5 cents of every 8.25% that the city, that entities pay in sales tax dollars. And of that 1.5 cents that the city gets, we get half a cent, and the city gets 1 cent. So that is where our $500,000 comes for, and you can see based on our budget what that supports. We help fund the Main Street program, the farmers market, and then we also help with administrative and some overhead expenses of the city to help run our organization. Hopefully at some point we'll also have a salary for an executive director so that we can bring someone aboard to recruit and bring in some of those businesses, and then all of the other projects that you see. Our advertising, and that is basically where our nonprofits come in and ask for funds to generate ads out to draw in a larger crowd, and if those people come to town to support the event and to spend their money here, which in turn generates more sales tax dollars, which in turn helps us, and then the business incentives for $50,000 for matching grants, facade grants, and other things that we fund our local businesses with. So,
I was able to find the minutes, or a snippet, if you're interested in
Okay.
hearing that.
Okay.
It says at the July 28 WEDC meeting, the WEDC board voted unanimously to purchase 213 and 219 East Broadway and 203 North Walnut from Jerry Oliver in the amount of $100,000 plus closing costs. The WEDC recommends use of the properties for public parking to replace parking lost in the closing of Market Street.
So it does fall under WDC guidelines.
Parking is infrastructure, and to my knowledge, we can support infrastructure that supports local business and traffic
Yeah.
into the town.
Like,
Are there any funds in the city's budget to cover any part
When does the budget end? Are they like the city? Is it
Yes.
September?
Yes.
October 1 to September 30 is our fiscal year.
And that's part of the discussion we had, is we could wait until next budget year. But the price we're getting per square feet on concrete, Ms. Jan can attest to, is pretty good.
Okay, so I'm just thinking out loud. We have 4 months left of the budgeted year
Mhm.
for the EDC.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Well, I mean, May, June, July,
Well, yeah,
August, September.
May's
okay.
almost, yeah.
so do we know when, the art center or all that's gonna take place of putting the utilities underground?
The deadline's August 31st. I'm supposed to have the last utility contractor estimate by Friday. They also told me that 2 Fridays ago, so, but they've promised me that this Friday, they're estimating 2 weeks to completion. Once we can get that final bid in, we're probably 2 to 4 weeks out on getting that project done. But our drop dead on that is August 31st.
Okay, so this is just my thought process on this, okay? So, I think everyone would agree, the parking lot is needed. I think it would benefit everybody in the downtown area, even the farmer's market area, anything that takes place. The reason I would suggest taking it and go ahead and starting the parking lot project is because if we wait till the budgeted year starts again, you're putting all the construction and everything in the Winnsboro community during some of the busiest times of the year for Winnsboro. The autumn trails, rodeos, Christmas, and I think we need to get this in place prior to all that starting. The conversation might be, do we take it out of the special fund or whatever y'all call that, a reserve fund or whatever, and put it back after the first, or do we just take it from the reserve fund and use it? But I don't think I just can't in my rationale mind think of how would this not benefit the city of Winnsboro. And I don't think putting it off is really going to help us obtain any goal except not pulling it out of the reserve fund, which we do have the funds in. And I realize that is for outstanding circumstances, but I just don't see how the whole city, even down, I know people refer to downtown, but even everybody, because of the farmer's market and all the different activities that come into Winnsboro during the fall months, how this wouldn't help just make everything a little bit better. Now, that's my thought on this. That's how I'm thinking this.
All right, you say we had 700,000 in the reserve fund?
Or is that in the account total to cover the
That's
rest
a
of
fund
our?
balance.
Yeah, so that
That's
would,
a fund balance.
we've still got some
Right.
budgeted expenses to come out of those funds as well.
So what's
And more
available
revenues
from
coming in.
that?
Right, but we should
Well, in
hopefully
theory,
have something.
in theory, what you guys are
20,000.
looking at in front of you on your financial statement should not touch your fund balance or your reserve funds. We should spend what we're anticipating to collect within the same 12-month time period. So unless we have some sort of significant shortfall on the sales tax, then you just wouldn't be able to give out as many incentives. We just have to keep a pulse on that as we go through the year and keep watch on that percentage. As far as pulling it from a fund balance, it would require a budget amendment. We wouldn't be able to just pull it and then put it back. Governmental accounting practices would require us to do a budget amendment in order to do that.
What I'm getting at, is there enough that's uncommitted from that would cover the costs of doing this?
Not in the current budget.
Not in the
We would
current
have to
budget. In
ask
the,
for a budget
in,
amendment from the council.
in the reserve funds, yes. Reserve fund balance,
That's because we have
We have the
14,000 to
money,
give out and.
we have the money, we don't have it in this year's budget.
correct.
Which is a much better problem to have.
In this year's budget.
Well, I just really think the longer we put this, this has been needed for the last 2-3 years at least, that I'm aware of. So I
2
think
years ago or so,
the
that
longer we
WEDC
put this,
voted to do it and thought we were getting
Yeah.
the,
and I think the longer we put all this off, the more expensive it's gonna be. The prices are not gonna go down. Or I have never seen prices go down on things.
Okay. Well, let's look at then the current routes. I can just tell you from a construction standpoint, when the dollars are this close between the two, concrete's always going to be the way to go over asphalt.
Oh, yeah.
If there's someone from the audience that has much more construction experience and knowledge, I would be happy to entertain an education regarding that. But, either way, we are going to have that $5,000 to break out and remove the
Yes.
current concrete and haul off. That to me, I'm assuming, is an expense either way. I don't know, have we gotten more than one bid for the removal of the current
No, we have
concrete
not.
things there? So I mean, 5,000 might be a bargain, or there might be a contractor that would be willing to donate it. Not that I don't know one personally, but
We would
there have been some that have donated services to help the city with infrastructure and other things that have,
We can include that in the bid proposal too, so that we'll get more
okay.
on that.
Would you like to address the point?
You asked about from a construction standpoint on concrete. I do not know the bids. I've not seen them whatsoever. But the biggest factor on most parking lot constructions is how thick is the concrete and how much rebar is going in it.
We're talking 4 inches thick with 3/8 inch rebar, which I don't necessarily believe that's adequate on the 3/8 inch, but
Not if you're gonna be bringing in 1-ton trucks parking in there, you're gonna have
That is
concrete
correct.
failure on an ongoing basis.
I wanted to see if we
do
could
not build a
sidewalk
house
this.
that does not have a 5-inch base with concrete underneath it.
Can we
Piers.
sidebar this, and is it possible, I don't even know if this is possible, can I meet with them out there? With my construction background, that might help a little bit.
So we're still, yes, the answer is yes, but you're still gonna have to bid it. So what we would need to do is set some sort of bid schedule, and then within that bid schedule, we would say, you need to meet with the.
I've never seen a bid put in a paragraph form like this.
Yeah. So what we've done in the past, like with our street project, when we did our bid for our RFP on the roads, we asked the contractors to come and meet with Public Works so that he could drive them around and show them the different roads so that they could do, apples to apples with what we were needing. So we could do a very similar thing and just ask that they make contact with you or whomever on site prior to bidding the project.
That'd be good. And even the ones that gave us a bid, if they can kind of, maybe explain it to me, what they're.
Sure. Yeah, and I mean, you're welcome to reach, their contact information's in that proposal. Any of the board's welcome to reach out and ask any questions you guys
This
want to.
information is available for the public to see. It was under our agenda 7.5. If you click on the little paperclip, it will open up. I think maybe Mackenzie, and correct me if I'm wrong here, she put these bids in here just to show us,
Give you an idea.
an idea
That it's gonna
of
push us
what
over that
asphalt
50.
cost. And my thoughts there, I mean, asphalt is anywhere between $39,000 and $68,000, depending on whether they just go in and put a 3-inch hot melt over the sand and stuff that's there that's not gonna work for $38,000, up to a 3-inch base with a 2.5-inch mix on top, which is almost 63,000. Concrete at the 4-inch is at 54,000. So if you can get, there will be 6 inches of concrete.
6 inches
6 inches is on the
curb,
curb.
4-inch thick.
No, I just saw the 6 inches of concrete when I was looking. I probably should have read all.
And I wasn't being degrading on the paragraph form. I
Sure.
just want to make sure that they can break it down so that maybe I can understand better.
Yeah, I think having them requiring, if you want to bid, that you have to meet on site to speak with someone, I think that's very reasonable. That happens a lot when you're doing RFPs.
Right, and I think we need to get 3 bids for it all too. That way we know
If we put out a request for proposal, we don't have an option on how many submit bids, but if we go through some sort of public platform, then presumably we'll get.
Where do we advertise that at to get more bids?
Civcast is kind of the go-to place to get your most exposure, but we'll also do local advertising and local newspapers. But there and Civcast have been my two biggest resources.
Say that again?
Civcast.
Okay.
We also have to post it in the, whatever our paper of record, which is Winnsboro News, correct?
Yeah.
So just a question. When we advertise this for bids, do we state that we want a 5-inch base with yard totally over my head on
Yeah,
construction?
and so that's the thing,
A
if
concrete
they're,
person should
The
know.
rebar,
Well,
the centers of that.
Even if
the
we
thickness
don't,
of
they
the
should.
concrete,
yeah,
whether you want it a curve up the are you talking a flat level, or are we going to get?
Well, I mean, I think I'm just assuming, okay, that on the front, we wanted basically a walkway, a sidewalk, whatever, and then curve, of course, it seemed me to curve. I just didn't, I'm not aware, I have never looked at a bid for any reason. So I just didn't know if we put in, this is what, because I want the bid to be apples to apples. Or do we not do that? I don't know, that's my question.
you get, it's pretty specific on your bids on what you're asking them to,
Oh, okay.
propose for you.
I just didn't know. I've never looked,
I
I
think what
would
you're
never
basically
bid.
asking for us is, does the board support using our dollars
Yes.
to, install the parking lot for the city?
Yes.
Before you go to the trouble, the time, the expense,
Yes.
of getting all the RFPs, and then us go, why did you do that? We're not interested in
Yes.
funding that type of thing.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
I think that is more what she's asking now. She gave us some bids just to show us the ballpark of where things would be, and is this a project that the board wants to support or not, before she proceeds, because let's face it, time is money, and she has lots of other things she could do than chase a rabbit hole that we're not interested in supporting. So thank you for informing us, for bringing this so that we can consider and give you some
Do we then
direction.
make a motion?
I think the motion would be to authorize McKinsey and our city representatives to entertain RFPs for our specifications to build a parking lot.
Would it not also have to
Facing.
include taking the funds out of the, what did you call it, the fund balance or whatever it was
That
called?
would-
Reserve.
I think first we get the RFPs and figure out how much it is.
Yes.
And then we adopt somebody's bid to recommend to the council with our recommendation of how we're gonna pay for it.
Yes. And then a
Does that
budget
make
amendment would
sense?
come out.
Timeline to everybody of,
Okay.
We need to specify how we want it though in the proposal, so we are comparing apples with apples.
Yeah.
Do we have a spec sheet to give out to contractors?
We usually, we can create those and say, this is what we want. Alternatively, we can say, we need you to meet with the project manager or the public works director, whomever it is, prior to get an idea of what the project is like. We can do it really any way that you guys see
I think a
fit.
spec sheet would be best because it outlines exactly what we
Okay.
want.
yeah, they know what you're bidding.
And then they would have to follow that spec sheet to a T.
Who would the city put over that as project manager?
Probably Joey, our public works director, as far as the boots on the ground. Now,
Really need to know
He
it's gonna
is
be
also not in
an
the business
XY
of building
by-
roads, so, we would have to figure out what that spec sheet needs to look like.
Is there anything else that we want to do? I mean, obviously the flat work is the concrete, but then you've got lighting. Is there an entrance designating that as Winnsboro parking?
I think you'd
some other
almost need
things that,
two exits, I think you need two openings to the lot.
so that would be, is there already an opening, that is grandfathered in there on Broadway? There was a building with parking in front of it. Is that gonna be a TxDOT issue?
I don't know if it'll be an issue, but we will be required to get with TxDOT for that entrance, yes.
The side street the city can,
Well, you'd almost have two side streets.
You'd have Broadway and Walnut, right?
What's on the back side?
It's an alley.
Oh,
that goes from behind Riverside, La Canuchetta, behind Promised Land,
two
behind, the city's blank lot, behind Dr. Petty's building, and then runs on into Franklin Market.
You drive by there every day, but when
I
you
know,
start
I
thinking
know.
it's.
I park on that parking lot.
What?
I sit there trying to think, okay, how far is it?
I think it would need to be lighted.
We can request proposals for more, for, kind of all in, and then you guys can only
I
approve.
mean, are we wanting pretty decorative lighting, or do we want Swepco or whoever?
I'm thinking we just want, one big light out there.
That comes on at night and lights up the parking lot,
I'm with that.
for free, or
I'm
whatever.
thinking the free one's good.
They're not free,
Well,
but
they're not
they're more
free, but-
affordable than the
yes.
decorative ones. Yes.
Because with the decorative, then you have to have maintenance and upkeep and pray to, that
want
nobody
functional,
bust out
yes.
I'll tell you, my thinking on signage was to have signage that matched what we have at the Bowery, kind of that metal that says Bowery. So it would visually look similar to that, but say city parking. I thought that would visually look nice down there, and then to have, I guess it's large enough for two-way traffic to come off of 11 onto Walnut or vice versa to go the other way. There was already a general design for this space as part of the bond package. So that's kind of what we've been basing everything off of.
Okay.
So I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the high school, what do you call it, ag team build the Bowery sign?
Yes, they do.
Yes.
So maybe we could beg, plead, and do whatever we need to get them to do with the cities. Hey, I like anything that incorporates the younger people here in Winnsboro, so that's,
Well, and there are probably students that are looking for ag projects,
yeah.
and if the city buys or the WDC, whoever buys the materials, they can then use it for their ag project, and,
Yeah, for sure.
to
They did a good
show,
job on the Bowery sign. I
Yeah.
think it looks good.
Any further discussion? Would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, let me wing it. Okay, so I make a motion
That you authorize McKinsey to seek
That was-
RFPs for the completion of a,
Can I go what
parking
she
lot
said? No.
No, you gotta
on
say
the
it.
city's property on Broadway and Walnut?
Yes, that's what I make a motion for.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Hold on just a second. I need to make sure Angie got that.
I didn't get that.
Yeah, I'm not sure Angie, yeah.
Okay.
You said it.
A motion to authorize McKinsey to seek RFPs for the construction of a parking lot on the city's property located on Broadway and Walnut. Do we need the council's approval to seek the RFPs, or can we get the RFPs and then we take everything to council for their approval?
Probably will parallel some of that because there's some hearings that are going to be required because of the dollar amount of it anyway. So we'll probably parallel some
Add on
things.
there and to seek council approval as appropriate. Here you go.
Man, I did a good motion.
Sorry about that, I just.
No, you're good. I'm good. You're good. I'm good.
So
For
we know that's
efficiency of
it.
time,
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.